Congressman, is there any recourse with Obama telling Congress, I don't need your authority to go to war in Libya. I have the UN giving me the authority, and I, quote, do this for their credibility. I mean, are we just going to, I guess, sit here collectively? I mean, I know you've been fighting it, and just allow the power of the purse and the power of war to more and more move to the executive?
Yeah, I'm afraid that people aren't going to demand it, and the Congress won't respond, and there's a few of us, that file suit, and we try to fight it and vote against the funding, but we never get the majority. But, it's not like it's brand new. I know this is an outrage, but, it's pretty much what's been going on since Truman. Truman actually, did that on Korea, and, of course, we still are spending money on Korea. At times, a president would come and get token approval. They never get a declaration of war. It's just a token approval to do what I want. If I want to fight a war, I can, and Congress is expected to finance it. So we've given up a lot over the last 100 years, and I think the responsibility of the Congress to be the final decision maker on going to war, that's been long gone lost, but that's one of the things we've all been fighting for, is try to restore that principle to our country.
Recently, shifting into monetary issues, you had Bernanke on the hot seat, and you said, is gold money? And he said, no, it's not. Their counterfeit Federal Reserve notes are. Now we've seen 2 weeks ago on Meet the Press, the former head of the Federal Reserve, Greenspan, I'm sure you saw it, say, hey, we're not going to default, we'll just print money. But isn't that a form of default? That's that inflation tax you've been talking about, and another way of cheating people that have bought the treasuries. I mean, it's looking more and more like Hitler in his bunker to watch the Federal Reserve giggling about what they're doing.
Yeah. Once a country gets this indebted, they never pay their bills. They can't work their way out. Theoretically, we could, if we did all the things necessary, but in reality, countries don't. And especially if you end up over 40% of the money you need to operate, if you have to borrow it, it's at a point almost of no return. So they have to liquidate the debt. First, they won't admit we're in bankruptcy because they've been able to pawn it off on the American taxpayers by raising taxes and inflating the currency and borrowing around the world. But we literally are bankrupt. So the debt has to be liquidated. And it is true, we won't default on the debt in the sense that they won't pay off the holders of bonds. They'll always be paid off, just like the holders of the obligations for Social Security will always send a check. But what they don't have control on is the value of that money they send. Matter of fact, it is a deliberate policy of the Fed, and Bernanke has essentially admitted this, that the only way we can get out of this is inflation. Some of the liberal economists are saying what this economy really needs is an inflation rate of about 6%. And so they're actually encouraging the inflation in order for the real debt to go down. Obviously, if your dollar loses 50% in purchasing power, your real debt goes down 50%. So 50% inflation, which they're liable to get, the real debt goes from 14 down to 7. But the real problem is everybody doesn't suffer equally. Some people suffer more. Some people actually benefit, and the middle class generally gets wiped out. And if they want to aim for 5, 10, or 15, or 30% inflation, they don't have control of it. It may turn into 100% inflation, and it'll get out of control, and that's what I think is our greatest danger right now.
Congressman, it's been said by a lot of pundits that you're a prophet. I think Al Sharpton even said that, and they can't deny that basically everything you've talked about has now come true. And they say Ron Paul's on a mission. He's certainly educating people. So at least they're admitting that you are in a war of ideas and that you're trying to change the course of history. And I would say successfully doing that, win, lose, or draw. But getting some into the campaign, even when you were on Neil Cavuto yesterday or a few days ago, I saw it on YouTube last night, not sure when, he kept saying, too bad you can't win. I sure love you. Too bad you can't win. So it was kind of a back slap in a smiley way. I'm not attacking Cavuto, but the issue is, in every poll I've seen, I watch it, you've been number 1, number 2, or number 3 for the last 6 months, and you win the New Hampshire straw poll, you get a technical tie, even when they're buying the votes in Iowa, and they put out this hoax that you can't win, but then meanwhile, and this is what I want you to speak to, You've got Romney, who's the Obamacare author, his model. It's now come out that not only was Perry the campaign manager in Texas for Gore, but that now we learn in '93 he gave speeches and wrote letters endorsing Hillary Care, worse than Obamacare, and forced Gardasil shots, sir. So I know you're a gentleman, but